The president is getting ready to go to Florida tomorrow to view the hurricane damage there. Today, though, it was all about tax reform. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts joins me now. Good evening, John.
Brad, good evening to you. This was the big signature issue of the presidential campaign for President Trump, and he is determined that he is going to get past this year that big signature issue of tax reform, even if it means turning his back on one of his big campaign promises.
Democrats and Republican lawmakers.
Meeting with a bipartisan group of moderate House members at the White House today, President Trump had bad news for high-income earners. They likely won't benefit from tax reform and in some cases might even pay more.
I think the wealthy will be pretty much where they are. Pretty much where they are. If we can do that, we'd like it. If they have to go higher, they'll go higher, frankly.
The move would stand in sharp contrast to what the president promised during the campaign, that the richest Americans would receive a whopping tax cut. But the politics have changed. If he hopes to get any Democratic buy-in, and he'll likely need it, the focus will have to be on cutting taxes for businesses and the middle class.
We're looking at for the middle class, and we're looking at jobs.
The president is exercising a lesson learned from the failure to repeal and replace Obamacare, that his own party can't deliver what he wants. West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, who had dinner at the White House last night, said with the right tax reform formula, the president has a chance to form a centrist coalition.
And I think a perfect scenario would be, can you get 30 Republicans and 30 Democrats? We're not going to get the far fringes.
Tonight, President Trump will dine with Democrats Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi to talk tax reform, infrastructure, and DACA, all issues he feels are ripe for bipartisan agreement.
If you look at some of the greatest legislation ever passed, it was done on a bipartisan manner. And so that's what we're going to give it a shot, right, Tom? We'll see what we can do. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, great.
The president's move toward the middle has lit a fire under House Republicans. Budget Chairman Kevin Brady today announced the framework of tax reform will be released the week of September 25th. Despite the overtures to Democrats, House Speaker Paul Ryan is confident the president will pursue conservative tax reform.
The whole point of all of this is the House, the Senate, and the White House are starting from the same page and the same outline, and then the tax writers are going to take it from there on the details.
As the president ramps up the push for tax reform, the White House today also tripled down on its assertion that the former FBI director James Comey may have broken the law by leaking memos he wrote following meetings with the president. Asked today why leaking personal memos after he left the FBI would constitute a crime, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was ready to pounce.
The memos that Comey leaked were created on an FBI computer while he was the director. He claims they were private property, but they clearly follow the protocol of an official FBI document. Leaking FBI memos on a sensitive case, regardless of classification, violates federal laws, including the Privacy Act, standard FBI employment agreement, and non-disclosure agreement all personnel must sign. I think that's pretty clean and clear that would be a violation.
And another headline coming out of the White House today, and this one emerged again out of that bipartisan meeting when Texas Congressman, Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar said the president did not insist on linking border wall funding to new DACA legislation. He did say, this is Cuellar, that the president wanted some sort of border security attached to it, but Brett, that the wall could be added somewhere else.
You know, John, the White House also reacting to something an ESPN host said about President Trump.
It was a series of tweets by Jamel Hill, and this question was asked at the briefing today in which she said, quote, Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. His rise is a direct result of white supremacy, period. He's unqualified and unfit to be president. As you can imagine, the press secretary took exception to that, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, saying, I think that's one of the more outrageous comments that anyone could make, and certainly something that I think is a fireable offense by ESPN. No response from ESPN to that yet.
Okay, John, thank you.